Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back here to our Sunday night live stream. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Burton as well, lifetime Longhorn, and also joined by the estimable Jerry Hamilton. We got a lot to get into on the show. It seems like the Longhorns' top first opponent in the 2025 season may have to replace both coordinators, the offensive and defensive coordinators. Ohio State looks like Chip Kelly will be heading to the NFL. We know Jim Knowles already headed off to join the Penn State coaching staff, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, looks like for the Longhorns, other big news coming up for the Longhorns, Tashard Choice. Looks like he's got a decision to make. Cowboys have, this has been reported, the Cowboys are interviewing him, interested in Tashard Choice, take over their running back position. Actually, a former coach on the Texas staff looks to be also competition for Tashard Choice with that job. Rashad Samples, another former Texas coach, now with the Oregon staff. He has also been one of the front runners for that running backs job with the Cowboys. So we'll talk about that. If Tashard Choice takes that job, what will the Longhorns do to fill that vacancy? We'll get into that coming up, but I think the hope is that Tashard Choice will stay put on the Fort Acres. We'll talk about all things related to that story. We'll also get into other recruiting news, notes, and nuggets as it relates to the 2026 class for the Longhorns and some of the other potential acquisitions the Longhorns may be looking at, whether that be transfer portal in the future transfer portal window, or that looks like them coming up in the future recruiting class for Longhorns. So a lot to get into coming up on this show. You guys know how it works. You can jump the line, super chats, jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Also, you guys can drive the show. Any questions, comments you have, we'll try to address as many of them as we can. But let's start out here, folks. Let's get into it. First of all, congratulations, I believe, gentlemen, or in order for Coach Choice. In addition to him being highly sought after because of his coaching acumen and achievements, he's also welcoming a new member of the family. So congrats to Coach Choice and his family first and foremost.
Yep, absolutely. This is what he posted. He posted, Amya says hook 'em. I kind of wonder, she is doing a little hook 'em there. I kind of wonder if that's Choice's way also, Rod, of telling folks that he's likely staying a Longhorn. Clarence Hill, veteran Dallas reporter, reported earlier today that Choice likely would not be the expectation or pick of Jerry Jones because of the pay that he makes at the University of Texas. We've talked about this being a factor. Pro assistants at position coaches rarely make as much as college assistants do because of the burden of recruiting. And if you're Tashard Choice and you're not only really good as a coach, but also recruiting, you have additional value in college football. Clarence Hill saying that he thought the Cowboys were moving on to other possibilities. Rashad Samples was one of those, as well as Derek Foster, former running backs coach at the New Orleans Saints as well. I think this is Coach Choice's way of saying, alleviating the fears of Longhorn faithful with this tweet, in my opinion, Rod.
Coach Choice is always recruiting. I'm sure he'll send that photo to JV and Osborne, hook 'em as well. By the way, Coach Choice, good luck in the crypto market down there. Obviously, it always shows what you're searching. So good luck in the crypto market. I think, look, it's interesting because he has a real fondness and a love for the Dallas Cowboys. Like I was told early this weekend, that is the place that's probably the most special to him anywhere he's ever been. And Jerry Jones brings him up to speak with the rookies every year and has done that for a few years. So even when he was at Georgia Tech. So, that would be a really, really a big deal for Texas. And we expect that to go Texas' way. But that'd be huge from a timing standpoint, just coming off the road recruiting guys. Just offered Derek Cooper, arguably the number one running back in the country, out of Chaminade, Madonna in Hollywood, Florida. I expect him to visit this spring. Amari Latimer, he's in on some really good players. And he has an energy that's unmatched on any coaching staff he's on. You can replace the guy that coaches. Sometimes you can't replace the energy.
No, we had Coach Brew on, and literally that was one of the main comments. Like, dude, where does this guy get the energy? Like, where is it coming from? In recruiting, that matters. You got to have that kind of that source of that vibrant energy constantly. And from what I've heard, Tashard Choice does have that, which is why he is an asset in recruiting. And a lot of times, there are coaches who may not necessarily have that that innate kind of quality in recruiting, so they don't gravitate towards it. So they want to get to the NFL as quick as possible because you ain't got to worry about recruiting, right? It's ball all the time. I ain't got to worry about recruiting, transfer portal, NIL, none of that stuff. I ain't got to impress high school teenagers. But I think for Coach Choice, because he does have that quality, that trait that I think is something that that young people gravitate towards, that energy you talk about. I do think it's an asset in recruiting. He understands that. He can coach at the NFL level, no doubt about it. But I think Coach Choice, still wants to tap into that quality at the college level. There's no need to really tap in. I mean, obviously relationships, that's important no matter what area of expertise you're in, no matter what your professional stance is, that's important. So he understands that, but I'm just talking about relating to young people. There is, and trust me, I'm learning it as I go because I just got a 16-month-old. There's a certain kind of energy that young people respond to. They just do. And I think Coach Choice has that, and that helps in recruiting at the NFL level. I talk about that with Dion. You don't really have to, utilize that quality. It's not an asset for you. It's all about ball and developing talent. And I think Coach Choice still understands the the value in being able to utilize that. And at Texas, it makes him special. It makes him special at the college level. So I expect him to stay at Texas. Also, Jerry Jones is notorious, guys, for being a little bit cheap in paying coaches and not saying he doesn't.
That's the understatement of the year, Rob.
Yeah, that's what even Mike McCarthy, right? He lowballed Mike McCarthy reportedly. He's been notorious for that for years, and Texas pays top dollar infamously for coaches, right?
He doesn't want to fire coaches because he'll have to pay their buyout.
Yeah, so that's why I don't really see it. I don't see Coach Choice leaving because the Cowboys lowball and notoriously the Longhorns they give you the top number for coaches to keep their guys. So I think especially a guy bringing is it Amaya or what is the name? Do we know the name? Huh?
Oh,
did he? Because I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I saw the spelling of it. So I want to make sure.
Amya, I think.
Amya, okay.
AMYA.
Yeah, new member of the family. Hey man, I'm assuming that Texas has more security, more compensation potentially right now. And I'm not going to say the prospects are higher. There's a higher ceiling for the job because it's the Dallas Cowboys, period. So that's just everybody knows what that is. But I just think in terms of job security, nothing against Brian Schottenheimer, but Sark, what he's got rolling here in Texas, and compensation because Texas pays top dollar for their coaches. I think that I'm confident that he'll stay right now at Texas rather than go to the league. He'll have other opportunities at the NFL level. I guarantee you. It ain't just Cowboys, but he does have a special place with Jerry Jones. And I've heard, Dion can talk about that too. If Jerry likes you, you may get special treatment potentially.
By the way, somebody saying Chip Kelly got $6 million to be OC of the Raiders. Wow, that's
what? Hold up! Whoa! No way! $6 million?
What does that mean? Pete Carroll's just coaching on Monday and Thursday and Sunday or something?
Apparently, he's still going to be a professor at USC. One time a week.
I don't, man. That would be unprecedented. That'd be the highest paid coordinator in the history of the league, easily. Like it wouldn't even be a question. And that, by far and away, I believe. I got to go look at the highest paid coordinators in the league, but $6 million a year, guys. That'd be wild.
Wow. There it is.
Good
I don't know who Albert Breger is, but
he's a real guy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at an article. I'm looking at an article right now from Front Office Sports from June of 2024. And they are claiming the highest paid coordinators in the league. Todd Monken was at $3 million at the highest paid. Then that's what they're claiming.
Just
guys, you will double it. So you do. Now I know he's a former head coach. Former head coaches calling plays in the league, guys. Lots of them.
Jerry Jones not paying enough to get away with an assistant coach.
I ain't worried no more. I ain't worried no more.
Coordinator for the offensive coordinator for the Raiders is probably making what, more than 10 NFL head coaches?
Easy. You know what? I'm sure Matthew's probably already had me. I'll pull that up too. Yeah, you're right, guys.
Hey, while you're doing that, I want to say one thing. Texas also added another member of their staff, Josh Dunson, director of recruiting at Memphis. We believe he's going to become the director of scouting at the University of Texas. Brandon Harris, the GM at Texas, filling out a number of roles right now. He's already got John Paul Jones as director of player personnel, Taylor Searles, director of recruiting, as well as Chris Gilbert, who actually reports in, I think, to the head coach. He's the special assistant to the head coach. But all of those off-field folks, Texas trying to bolster that staff right now to get even more. Dunson is another guy, Jerry, with Atlanta area ties. He was at Georgia Tech before. He was at Memphis this past season. He was just named director of recruiting for Memphis a year ago in January. So another move by the Longhorns to try to bolster recruiting.
Yeah, and I think it'll be talked about because he's from Atlanta, was at Georgia Tech, but it's a whole Southeast thing, right? I mean, you have your ties in the Atlanta area, obviously, but look, you've been part of recruitments in the state of Florida at Georgia Tech, state of Alabama, probably over in the Carolinas. So it's going to talk about it's going to be Atlanta, another guy that has Atlanta connections, and that is true. But also probably has some connections in the Sunshine State too, as Texas. I think we're going to see Texas continue to offer more players in Georgia and Florida in future years, which makes for a very happy me when we get to go see them all.
Hey, but also a report out tonight from 24/7 Sports that Alan Clark, a grad assistant at Ohio State, is being targeted by Texas for a linebackers coaching role. This from Matt Zenitz over at 24/7. The thought there, guys, he's from Baton Rouge originally, played at Grambling, was a grad assistant at Ohio State. Jerry, you've done a little research on him. What do you know about Alan Clark?
Well, I just what he would do was, so when Kenny Baker got to Texas, Kenny Baker is the interior D-line coach, but he's the pass rush coach for interior D-line, edge, linebacker. He is the pass rush coach. Alan Clark would help with that pass rush coach. If whoever they hire for that position is going to be somebody that Kenny Baker deems a pass rush specialist. So because Kenny Baker last year, he had a lot of experienced guys on the defensive line. This year he's got some younger kids he's got to get ready to play, right? I mean, so they need somebody that can take some of that has the same mind, that's going to teach the same things and sees it the same way, but can work with those edges from a pass rush standpoint. So whoever that hire is, just know, Texas fans, that is going to be a centerpiece of it.
It's good stuff there, Jared. I love that they're targeting coaches, support staff who have connections in these very fertile metro areas for recruiting talent. We're talking about Atlanta, we talked about it earlier this week. I'll do my my analysis again after the draft, but I've been tracking metro areas producing the most fertile recruiting areas in the country, and Atlanta is at the top of the list. Got producing 15 NFL players per year. Like that's insane. Like the Atlanta metro, 15 NFL draft picks per year.
I gotta say this to you, Rod. The other thing that I think it does, and Jerry, with the Dunson's hire, as well as maybe Alan Clark's, gives them another guy they can put on the road and recruit. Because, we saw that a little bit. Chris Gilbert went on the road for Texas a little this year, right? And so now with the new rules surrounding who can go on the road and all this other stuff, Jerry, I think they could designate other people to go on the road for recruiting purposes. So I think that's one of the reasons why Brandon Harris, Steve Sarkisian, taking advantage of those new rules and reaching out and finding people they think can help fill that part of the process as well.
If it does end up being Alan Clark, I think something on him. He's from Baton Rouge. He's Louisiana. He's from the boot. He also was, from the boot. And he also is like Nathan O'Neill, who we've had on the show. He was the other known guy that helped train guys to get them ready for the NFL draft. And he worked with a bunch of pros. His list is Ed Oliver, Jeffrey Simmons, Daniil Hunter, a few others. So he's done a lot of draft prep for the guys, like Nathan O'Neill, who we've had on, who coached the D lineman at the Senior Bowl this past week. That does a lot of the NFL stuff as well. So this is a guy who's from Louisiana, pass rush specialist, helps guys in draft prep. That's always good to have in recruiting standpoint, right? This guy that can say, look, man, I had Ed Oliver, Jeffrey Simmons, Daniil Hunter, blah, 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 blah. I helped get those guys ready for the NFL Combine, coached them after they got to the NFL. So there's some pieces, if it's Lyle and Clark, that are really positive. Pass rush specialist coach is from Louisiana, originally Baton Rouge, and has coached a lot of guys. His resume is going to be kind of like Chris Jackson was before Chris Jackson went to the NFL. Chris Jackson trained guys and got them ready for the NFL Combine in the NFL. Those are actually really popular to have on your resume in recruiting standpoint. Because that's just not, hey, I'm recruiting you out of high school. Look, man, I've coached this guy, and this guy. I got them ready for the NFL draft. I'll do the same thing for you, but I'll be doing it here.
Yep. Combine's a show now, so everybody, it's a separate thing altogether, getting ready for the Combine NFL testing, as opposed to obviously your tape and being developed at the NFL, at the college level. So I'm with you. And by the way, Baton Rouge, it has actually now surpassed New Orleans as a metro area producing NFL talent. I know that's crazy to say that, but it's based on like
Katrina.
The numbers I have. Yeah, you're right. The exodus. You're right. It's a great point. It's a great point there, Bobby.
I got to hit on some news we had. I know the Mavs fans. That was unbelievable late night. Jason Kidd didn't even know. De'Aaron Fox just got traded to the Spurs to go with Wemby. Well, the Spurs are making moves. They're going to be really good next year.
That's interesting, yeah, because there is no blueprint on how to build around Wemby. You never had an athlete in the NBA like Wemby. So you know what I mean? Like, there's no right.
By the way, if you're not a basketball fan,
oh man,
you should. And then we'll end basketball with the women's. You should go watch Wemby play in person to see somebody that's 7'4", that moves like him, that's that skilled.
Crazy.
There's never been anything like that. And I'm not saying he's be the best player ever, but there's never been anything quite like that. Women won at A&M today, 70-50, beat down. Yeah, beat down. A&M still couldn't get in the red zone, couldn't score in the red zone. Well done, Jay. Everything was outside 8. Texas won by 20. Texas men beat. I was texting with somebody today that after this 30-point win over LSU, Texas men are up to 25 in NCAA.net. I mean, that's a big number for Texas to be 25 in NCAA.net with John Calipari rolling in. By the way, the women have Dawn Staley in South Carolina coming in Sunday. But if Texas beats Arkansas, gets the 500 in SEC play Wednesday, the men have a pretty good path to 9-9 in the SEC. But I was texting with somebody today, and they don't think it's a fluke how they've been building recently. They think it's going to be a trend. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to go beat Alabama or anything like that, but they see some really positive signs. Trey Johnson's really improved on defense. It's gotten to that point for him. His shot selection is getting more consistent, understanding how people are going to defend him and how to invite doubles and make his teammates better. Devin Pryor, 6'7" athlete on the wing, has really helped them defensively and rebounding. So the Texas basketball staff's pretty excited. We'll see if they put it together. If they win Wednesday, I think they got a shot to get the 9-9.
Yeah. It's winning time right now for them.
In the NCAA tournament. 9-9, Texas is going to be like an 8-7, maybe a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament if they get the 9-9.
Man, fingers crossed for that one. All right.
Texas has one of those teams. Just what do y'all think of that, Jerry? Texas has one of those teams that could be either in the tournament or in the Sweet 16. Or completely out of the tournament, or in the Sweet 16. I mean, those kind of years for Texas because Trey Johnson is that player.
Yeah,
if he's hot, whoever you're playing is going to have it tough. And then the other part of it is they've just been somewhat inconsistent. Although to your point, they've won 3 of the last 4.
And they have 4 guys that can go. They have 4 guys that can score without having to run offensive sets. And anytime you have 4 guys that can score without running offensive sets, when it gets crunch time in the NCAA tournament and you got to go get buckets to win games, they have two guys. If they have two guys that have good nights, all four don't have to have good nights. But if you have a couple of guys that have good nights and you play well around it and you play cohesive around it, you're going to be able to score. This Texas team can score enough points to win in the tournament. It's all matchups dependent, but they, if this continues with them, it's going to be, it'll be a tip the hat to Rodney Terry and the staff for turning around because it did not look good early.
Yeah, you talked about Devin Pryor being a piece of that, important piece of it. I talked to you a little bit after our show this morning, Jerry, about how I felt like Zarik Onyema was actually part of it. I mean, he's played a role here as a quick screen guy. I mean, he's not perfect or anything, but he's quick. He's a little bit quicker than your average guy that comes out the screen and getting around things. I think they've got it. They've got some, to your point, Jerry, you used the term, they've got some things figured out. I think that's a fair way to say it. We'll see whether or not it actually, it actually comes to fruition and they make it, into the tournament and actually make it into the Sweet 16 or round of 32, what have you. But they have that type of team to me. I mean, they've got a team that nobody's going to want to play, most likely. Yeah. Is my point.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, before we'll get to the super chats here, and we'll get to a lot of the your questions as well. Let's thank our friends over at rogueshop.com for being a sponsor of our Sunday night live stream. We want to thank Rogue Shop for being a member of the Owen Texas football family, but you might want to thank Rogue Shop as well, folks. They have a variety of different products that will help you with all types of ailments. Say you're dealing with sleep deprivation issues, or maybe it's anxiety that is plaguing you, or maybe it's just the aches and pains of old age, which I'm dealing with a lot, actually, after my playing days. Our friends over at rogueshop.com, they have it all from oils and creams to flour, gummies, and vitamins as well. As a matter of fact, a member of the Owen Texas football family tell me that they swear by Rogue Shop. Actually, as a matter of fact, they were having sleep issues. They got a couple of Rogue Shop items, and they said now they are at Rogue Shop constantly because it has helped them with their sleep issues, and they're sleeping a lot better, and they can help you too, folks, no matter what may be ailing you. Our friends at Rogue Shop, they ship their products all around the country. They ship nationwide, so you can get their products to you no matter where you are. Our friends at Rogue Shop ship nationwide, so use that On Texas code. There's a discount code. Just On Texas is the special discount code, and you can get a discount no matter what products you're getting from rogueshop.com. Really appreciate them for being part of the On Texas football family. Thank you very much to rogueshop.com. All right, let's get to a couple of super chats here. How about this one first from Lock-In Horns? Says, how much, thank you very much for the super chat, by the way, Lock-In Horns. Says, how much unofficial contact occurs between potential schools and player considering portal?
Oh. Wow.
Is it a tampering question, basically?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well,
and here's what I would tell you. I don't think much happens between the player and the school, between the player's agent and another agent or whoever. It could have, a lot, in my opinion. Not all the time. I want to be clear about that. But I think that goes on a lot. I don't necessarily think the players themselves are involved in that. Specifically the ones that are going to be high dollar, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
They've got someone else working the phones for them, which you can expect and think that that's going to happen, right? That's just natural.
Yeah. Tampering is not really a thing anymore, right? Because it's not enforced anymore. We don't.
Is it really tampering?
It doesn't, right? It technically, the NCAA, they're not even sure they can enforce the tampering rule that they have, right, set out. So like I said, at this point, I'm not sure it's against the rules to tamper because they can't enforce the rules. So what's I don't know how that works. But and now like you said, Bobby, it's always second, third party, fourth party communications as well. So they could be finding a way around it as well. So it's the new era, the new landscape of college sports. All right. Thank you very much for Lock-In Horns. We appreciate that. Brandon with another super chat here. Thank you, Brandon. We appreciate it. Says started counseling. Long story short. And all right. Good luck with the counseling. Says my counselor has a son who plays ball. May want to take a look. Hayden Sublette, I believe, 6'4", 230, tight end and edge. Bryant, Arkansas. See, they're already writing it down. Bobby's already writing it down there.
I am writing it down. I'll look at it. Brandon, I will say, Bryant, Arkansas has had some players through the years.
They have.
That's not a unknown school or area at all.
See, there you go.
Hey, one thing I want to say before we go to the next super, if you don't mind, and it's going back to the tampering discussion. Mm-hmm. Jerry and I talked about it a little bit. Matt Rule, head coach at Nebraska, says Nebraska is thinking about not having a spring game this year. Mm-hmm. And the reason he's thinking about not having a spring game is because it would be before the spring portal window opens. And he thinks people would lure his players after watching the spring game into the portal. He said 6 players did it last year after the spring game.
I mean, it almost happened in Texas, didn't it, with the Malik Murphy thing?
Yeah.
Right? After Malik
Murphy did it. Murphy did it in December.
Before the playoff.
Before the playoffs last year. But what he's saying essentially is the spring game where you're playing yourself, essentially, ones versus twos versus threes, etc., is a unique opportunity for other schools to get a deeper look at your roster and thereby maybe make overtures to those players and say, hey, you're not going to start at Nebraska in Matt Rule's case, but if you came here, we really need a running back or we really need a wide receiver and you can play right away. And because of that, Matt Rule is acting like he's probably not going to have a spring game this year because of NCAA portal rules. Now, the portal does close, I believe, on April 25th. And I think that it's April 26th. That is a Saturday. And if that's the case, some spring games we may see some spring games on April 26th this year. Just putting that out there. If they have them at all.
Yeah.
I think more teams are not going to have a spring game than we expect right now. There's some that are already on a schedule, like Florida April 12th, Auburn April 12th, few others. I think Oklahoma's the 12th as well, if they have any coordinators or anything. I'm interested to see what Sark does. I'm interested to see what he does. This would be one way to keep the Manning hysteria at bay from a spring game.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
He's not going to be able to keep
happy. ESPN would not be happy about that, though.
I could have, because I feel like I feel like after the spring game Malik Murphy had, I feel like in 2023, the reports were he was getting a little love too. So
tampered with, maybe.
Yeah. Not leaving, but like somebody got some love.
Hey, Malik, we may need you over here, bud.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And I feel like that's kind of what Matt Rule was talking about. It's like, no, once my guys showcase, there's no benefit for me after that because everybody's just like, hey, that's a good player. And if he's not starting for them, he can play for us.
That's right.
So honestly, I know him. I kind of feel Matt Rule on this one. I think it makes sense in the new era of college football.
I do too, and I won't be surprised if Texas acts similarly.
Yeah.
If they don't feel it's in their best interest. I would say this: Jerry made a little slight remark there about a little dig at OU, like he did at A&M, and not getting over the goal line. But the long story short, Brent Venables came out this weekend and said he's going to be their defensive coordinator this year.
Hold on, what?
So Venables is going to be the defensive coordinator.
He's going to be the play caller. Yeah.
He's going to be the play caller.
Oh.
Now he'll have a coordinator, but he's going to call plays on defense.
That's it's not a good sign for him.
By the way, you're officially in your last season.
Yes, exactly.
If you don't win 9 games.
Never a good sign when that happens because because you got nobody to blame at that point. It's on you. Every bad decision on defense is on you. And I think this is the last resort, I think, for Brent Venables. So,
Hey, they may be better without him, looking at what everybody else is doing. Because when he looked at that offense last year, he didn't really like what he saw. He wasn't doing anything about it anyways. I mean, it's like, what's he doing about it anyways?
Oh man, yeah. I didn't know that news. That's good news for Texas, in my opinion. I mean, I know he's by the way, he's a damn good DC. I'm not saying that at all, but he won't be able to focus on building a program at that point. That's just really tough to do. All right, getting back to it, Edgar here says, Rod, biggest area of improvement for DBs next year, more man-to-man, pressing at the line. What's the best scheme for their talent? Hookup. Thank you, Edgar, for the super chat. We appreciate it. I do believe Sark wants to go to more man-to-man. They were probably bottom 20 in college football in terms of man-to-man rate and press coverage rate. Sark wants to do more of that, but you got to have the type of athletes to do it. And the corners that he's recruiting now in these latest recruiting classes, I do think those are the guys that are going to be more coverage specialists and can play man-to-man and bump and run. So I do think that's the goal. I don't know how quickly they'll get there, though. I don't know if they'll dive and be extreme in their usage of man and press immediately this year. I think they're going to transition slowly to it. And so I think maybe in 2-3 years, you could be looking at a team that plays more come a balanced 50-50 man and zone rate. Right now, Texas is probably 80% zone and 20% man. That's probably their ratio right now. I do think they want to get to more of a 60-40, 50-50 man zone rate.
What is the value of that, Rod? Just being able to do different things?
Yeah, you just get the extra man, whether you want to use that extra man to, win the numbers advantage in coverage, or you want to use that extra man to devote to stopping the run in the box. Nick Saban is on the record for saying, man-to-man coverage is the greatest coverage in the history of football, right? The problem is everybody can't play man-to-man because you ain't got the athletes to play man-to-man. Yeah. Texas has the advantages to recruit those athletes. That's why all the schools that are called DBU, all of them that can claim that moniker, they all can recruit the kind of athletes that play man-to-man. LSU, Ohio State's.
Your cats have to be better than their cats to play.
Yeah, exactly. It's great point, Jerry. It's simple. It's a simple equation. My guy's better than your guy. I don't care if you know it or not. We're playing man-to-man. So I just think Texas wants to get to that point. Not that they didn't have really good DBs this year, but as you pointed out, even Bobby, their skill set, or at least their strengths as a secondary, was more geared toward their football acumen and their football IQ, and very few mistakes, very few busted coverages. Just in my opinion, you might have one of the more buttoned up secondaries that you've ever seen at Texas. But that doesn't necessarily mean your guys can go out there and just win one-on-ones, which is why against Ohio State, you didn't see Notre Dame played more man-to-man against Ohio State than Texas did. Our guys can play man-to-man. Texas didn't necessarily trust that. By the way, it was the right decision because Jeremiah Smith only had one catch for 3 yards. So Texas did that. But my point is, I think they want to play more man-to-man, just so teams want. Think about this: when Texas played better quarterbacks, right? What happened when they played better quarterbacks? Better quarterbacks were able to make plays against Texas secondary. Why? Texas secondary is really good. You're the Thorpe Award winner back there. They're the best secondary, if not the best secondary in the country. But I know what you're doing. I know you're playing zone. I know you're playing match zone. I know it. And there are ways to manipulate that. And to give you the ultimate, I think you want what Georgia and Ohio State were able to do to you and your wide receiving core and your offense. You want the ability to be able to play man and zone just as effectively in more of a balanced split. And that's what Texas wants to do. So you played Cade Klubnik, you played Will Howard, the better quarterbacks you played, the more and more plays they made. You realize that? That's because everybody knew what you were doing pretty much. You playing zone.
Yep. Yeah. All right, Rod, I'm going to hit a recruiting question here because I want you to watch the film of this guy. So, Texas, I love the offer to Keys, Tristan Keys. It's nice to be in it for big-time players and for them to reciprocate. Rod, Texas offered one of the top 2 receivers in the country earlier this week or last week. Chris Jackson went to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, hometown of Brett Favre. What's up? And offered Tristan Keys, 6'3", 186. Is really, really good, Rod. And I'll talk about recruiting while you watch him. You can have some thoughts on this guy, but he's 6'3", 186, big time, multiple qualifier in the state track meet, multiple events. But Chris Jackson was on the road last week. He saw Jabari Mack and Destrehan. He went to see Aaron Gregory in Douglas County, Douglasville, Georgia, Naeem Burrows and Jacksonville Bulls. But there were 2 5-stars offered last week by Texas. Tristan Keys is one of them. The other is the running back at Chaminade, Madonna, Derek Cooper, who's an absolute stud, who's 6'1", 200, and may run in the 10.5s this year. But, Rod, I wanted you to see Tristan Keys because this kid's really good.
Yeah, you don't see guys this kind of size that got that kind of burst. Guys that big don't move like that. That is freaky, man. And
he's a dude.
He is a dude.
And look how he gets in and out of routes too. He's got
the burst. That's what I'm saying. The burst out of the cut. I mean, it is, and then he attacks the football. He's 6'3". This is what I'm talking about. We're just talking about winning one-on-ones. This is what they want more of. That's
what they look at. That's what they look like, Rod.
This is exactly what they want more of, guys. I'm telling you. Go look at Texas wide receivers versus man. It's crazy to say this, but they haven't necessarily been that productive versus man coverage. It's actually been one of the things that teams can throw at Texas and actually, have be an effective counter, which is just play man coverage. Georgia did it a lot. A&M actually did a lot too. Texas wants to be able to win one-on-ones. This is why you see them taking shots at Ryan Wingo against Georgia every time, because Georgia will leave him one-on-one and go, you know what, our guy's going to win. Guys like this, they'll win a one-on-one. Oh, and he can work the screen game. See, Sark wants a big guy like this. That's why Wingo is so special for him, because Wingo can go downfield vertically and make plays at the catch point, but also if you just put him in the screen game and give him just, a little bit of space in the screen game, the yak ability. This guy's got yak ability at 6'3".
Yeah. And how this Eli said, you showed another receiver, the one who hurdled over the defender. That is Jermaine Bishop Jr. Willis, who will probably play corner, who I think Texas leads for. But how Tristan Keys came about as 7-on-7 teammate with KJ Lacey in the past. KJ Lacey, obviously the freshman quarterback. Keys has also become friendly with Diabell. Both of those guys told Texas, hey, man, Tristan Keys will have serious – look at that play. He will have serious interest in Texas. So Chris Jackson made the trip, didn't just blindly offer him. This is where Texas is smart in recruiting. Didn't just throw the offer out. He made the trip to Hattiesburg last week to sit down with the head coach at Hattiesburg, sit down with Keys and a family member, and make sure this had the possibility of being real. And this wasn't just, just wanting an offer type of thing, because you got to sit down with these kids to realize it. But now I expect Keys to visit this spring. There's he is hurling. I expect him to visit this spring and probably a June official visit. I think Tennessee and Alabama and Tennessee are the teams to beat right now. A&M's also in it. Things can change, but as of today, I don't think he's going to stay in state. So that's another reason why you get in the game here, because Bobby, as you know, a lot of these kids in the state, in the state of Mississippi, they're hard to get out at the end of the day. And outside, if you're not Alabama or LSU.
Not down in Hattiesburg off I-10.
Yeah, that's a little different game.
So that's
Bobby won a lot of battles down there.
Yeah, that's the whole issue is the northern part of the state and the middle part of the state of Mississippi much more difficult to get guys out of. But Poplar, oh God, I can't even remember the name of the place. I've gone through it. That southern part of the state where Hattiesburg is at is a lot of guys go to LSU, Florida State, that kind of area down there. But hey, I want to see. We're having fun. It's a little easier Sunday night talking here. Matt, would you pull up Chris Henry Jr.'s video on Huddle, if you don't mind? You said he was the number 2 wide receiver, one of the top 2 wide receivers in the country, right?
Yeah, Jerry? And we can watch the video, but I just want to say this is not happening unless Brian Hartline leaves Ohio State. That's
fine. Well, I'm saying let's compare the two.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I just don't want Texas fans to get the wrong thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got you. Let's see if there is any. Matt may not be able to find any.
Is he the number? So Chris Henry's the number 1 receiver in his class? Okay.
And this kid will
Chris Henry Jr.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this kid will be number 2, probably. Yeah.
Really? When it's all said and done, the Mississippi kid?
Yeah.
Wow. And he honestly looks like to me. I couldn't imagine there being too many kids that got to film better than that dude. If they aren't, like I said, I'm with Bobby now. Let me see the field that's better. If Henry's better, I kind of want to see it right now. That is freakish, man. Because that dude, that having 6'3", twitchiness, that kind of twitch at 6'3", that's rare, man. You don't see that.
Matt says there's only 33 seconds of it.
That's good.
Let's show a little bit of it, Matt.
This is Texas' chances at this kid right now. All right, let's go.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's all you need of it. 33 seconds. That's how damn good he is. You don't even need no more time. It's like, yeah, he's ready. He can be the number 1 receiver in the country. Wow.
It happens.
That's fantastic.
That's
RC saying a clickbait headline. What portal news? Well, we want to talk on the portal. Like,
was this it?
Yeah. What positions while we watch this? Texas in the portal, definitely wide receiver. Definitely. If it's a guy, they're definitely going to go after it. Tight end, find their fit, definitely a tight end. Offensive line, they went after one guy. One more D lineman for sure, if they can get the right guy, more of a disruptor guy that they want as well out of the portal. So, I mean, the portal's going to move. The interesting thing with the portal that we were having a discussion about earlier is, are more colleges not going to have a spring game because of the portal? Essentially not wanting their team scouted live on a spring game on the ESPN or wherever for all the other schools.
Yeah.
That
affects the portal.
Yeah, I don't look. I think that the other thing that we need to say here is the question I would put to anybody right now, and as it relates to what Texas is going to decide to do here, is what's in the best interest of Texas football. Because I got some notes. Oh, is this really possible? Could it really happen? I think it really could. So the answer is I think it really could. But look, I get a lot of enjoyment from going to the spring game. I know my bunch of friends do. It's, however many thousand people love to do it. At the same time, I want what's best for Texas football, right? And from that standpoint, you enjoy doing that. And so whatever Sark says is going to be the way to go. As it relates to transfer portal overall, I believe there's a question in here earlier about
can I ask one thing, Bobby, though? Can we just make it okay? Because the big issue is other teams seeing your talent, right?
Yep.
The schemes are vanilla. We know that they don't break out any new schemes or anything, new strategies. Everything is vanilla. The big issue is other teams getting a look at your talent. So can we just do a big open practice for the fans with not on television? Can you do it without being on television?
Probably.
I mean, because that's a big issue too. Because are they going to send a ton of stallions down? Now they may send a ton of stallions down to your spring. That's a possibility. But
or a high school football coach that's friendly with a recruiting coordinator.
Okay, so you're right. Maybe it's just you're right. I guess it could just be an open practice or something. I don't know. I don't know how you deal with that. That is a conundrum. Because they just want to see. And by the way, only 20 schools in the country got to worry about these guys.
Yes.
Whose rosters are that talented where the second, third string guys could start anywhere else in the country? That's what's like 15, 20 schools deal with that.
How many? Well, let me ask you this. I will take that a little different from you, Rod. If Akron, low level MAC school had their spring game on TV, I personally think it would be malpractice if Texas didn't scout that and see if there's anybody over there. If Texas scouting department didn't at least take a look at Akron and see if there's somebody that can play for them.
Okay. So you're saying
it's the 20 that may be exposing their second and third
string. Yeah.
Akron and Ball State and Fresno State, they're exposing their first stringers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
I agree with you.
That's a good point. You're a good point. You're right about that. So maybe nobody has spring games anymore there because everybody's got something to lose depending on your status.
It is one of the reasons why, and it's one of the reasons why I think that it's possible they go to just a winter portal period.
Okay.
In the future.
So you can have spring and then
then you just you eliminate the spring portal period. You just allow one time a year in December and it's done. And then you can bring back the spring game and everything else you want with it.
I never thought about that. It's a good point though there, Bobby. Good point.
All right. Rod, if you were trying to, you'd be watching the Central Florida or
no, I agree. I didn't think about that, but you're right. Game. I mean, because I know I can take it.
They might have a punt returner you want.
And I know I can get them. No, you're right. I know I can get them. I know.
So for instance, What if you could watch Buffalo's spring game and Khalil Mack was a sophomore?
Exactly.
Or a freshman.
Yep.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
He'd be at Penn State next week.
He'd be getting $1 million offer the next day.
Yeah, he'd be at Penn State is what would happen. It's exactly what would happen.
Yep. I was saying you can not televise them, but like you said, you can still send somebody down there to see it. It's still so I don't know what you're about. That's a hell of a conundrum that you got to deal with, period. It's the new landscape of college sports. Everything ain't gonna survive, guys. Everything is not gonna survive. The old, obviously, kind of the old infrastructure is not gonna survive the new landscape. It's just not gonna work. And spring game, walk-ons and spring game may disappear. Like it just sucks, but it may happen.
You know what if Trey Owens looked unbelievable in the Texas spring game? Somebody throw $3 million at him.
I've already said Trey Owens ain't gonna be here for 3 years.
Turn it down.
I don't think he's gonna be here for 3-4 years anyway. I think he's that good. So I agree with that, Jerry.
And people said he would turn it down. It's easy to say that he probably would, but I'm just saying.
Yep.
It's hard.
The indecent proposal.
I mean, it puts these kids in a difficult position, but at the same time, look, I mean, it's Florida State on line one. Yeah. I agree with that, Bobby.
I agree with that.
Jerry, one other thing we need to mention, we talked a little bit about Tashard Choice most likely staying at Texas at the beginning of this. We also talked about the hiring of Josh Dunson, director of recruiting from Memphis, to join the Texas staff. I'm actually told that actually happened earlier in the week, not just today, but earlier in the week. Alan Clark, according to 24/7 Sports and Matt Zenitz, is being targeted by Texas as an outside linebacker. Defensive end coach. He's a grad assistant currently at Ohio State. And then we also mentioned Chip Kelly going to the Los Angeles Raiders to make $6 million. The Las Vegas Raiders to make $6 million a year, as well as Jim Knowles going to Penn State to make $3 million. That means both Ohio State coordinators are gone. And then one last piece I want to mention. Alabama made a good hire today. They added Ryan Grubbs.
Coming back. That was a good move.
Coordinator that was with DeBoer, with Penix at Washington. He's now the new Alabama offense coordinator. I think Alabama got better today.
Yep.
I'm not sure the Las Vegas Raiders did. I'm pretty sure Alabama Crimson Tide did with Ryan Grubbs.
To your point, Bobby, the $6 million, according to Front Office Sports, like I said, they have Matt. This is from 2024, start of the 2024 season. So it's only this past season. They have Matt LaFleur making $6 million. That's the 12th highest paid coach.
He's the 12th highest paid at $6 million.
They got him as the 12th highest paid.
He might be the 12th highest in the SEC.
I'm saying that's what they got him at. Just throwing total.
I mean, serious. Are there 10 head coaches?
They got Andy Reid as the highest paid coach in the NFL at $20 million.
This will be interesting with the Chip Kelly thing. Ohio State O-line coach went to the Arizona Cardinals. And Bobby and I were talking, well, that just meant Tim Drevno would just roll right into the OL coach at Ohio State because he was kind of the special assistant type deal because he came from UCLA with Chip Kelly to Ohio State. So they really had 2 OL coaches last year. We just figured, Drevno will just roll right in the offensive line coach. I don't know. Does he go to the Raiders with Chip Kelly? So Ohio State also has OC, OL coach as well, potentially.
Wow. Yeah.
Because OCs want their own OL coach, right?
And Ryan Day still making the celebration. He's still making the celebration rounds. He's
playing softball against the Ohio State softball team.
Hey, you know what? I'm not mad at him, dude, because Ryan Day went through some dark times. I heard him in an interview say losing to Michigan. He recently lost his father, and he was like, losing to Michigan, it was right up there with losing my dad. It was like that dark of a time for him. I was like, good Lord. That man went through some stuff. So you know what? Make the rounds, man. You only win a national title once. Your first national title was. Good for you. Free NBA young boy. You just brought this up, Bobby, but just to reiterate, says Texas is hiring Memphis' director of recruiting. Thoughts on this, if any? We did just cover it a couple of times, but the bullet points for those who may have missed out on it, Bobby.
Director of recruiting at Memphis for a year. Prior to that, he was a recruiting specialist at Georgia Tech. He is from the Atlanta or Georgia area. That is one of the considerations. We believe he's going to be, his title at Texas is not going to be director of recruiting. It's going to be director of scouting, is what I think is going to happen. Cannot confirm that 100%. I was told that he was actually hired earlier last week, and this is just coming out now. So that's what I have for him. Again, his name is Josh Dunson. I think he's in his, I can't give you his exact age, but I think he's in his 20s. And we do believe that part of the reason that Texas is bolstering its off-field staff, other than just the fact that, you can never have enough of folks looking at players and trying to recruit players. The other piece to that, in my opinion, is that with the rule changes now, other assistants can now go on the road and recruit outside of just your 9 full-time assistants. And so Chris Gilbert, for example, has gone out on the road and recruited. Brandon Harris has done that. If this comes to pass, maybe Josh Dunson is able to do that as well. Okay. I'm not saying he's for sure going to do it. Just saying maybe. It gives Texas another possibility in that regard.
All right, thank you for that, Bobby. GC Longhorn and a couple of other folks in the chat have questions about this. Basically, with all of the turnover now happening at Ohio State, looks like the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator leaving. Got some assistant coaches potentially leaving as well. GC Longhorn, were there any guys considering Texas who went with Ohio State? Maybe that changes now. And I saw that another question came up earlier. Yes, this one also points out over-under of GC Longhorn on Ohio State to Texas 2025 recruits Riley Pejon, Devin Sanchez flipping to another school after obviously a lot of turnover. I mean, you did just win a national title, so things are going well.
And NIL's good at Ohio State.
Yeah, things are good.
Yeah, Texas and Ohio State, two of the best in that regard.
Yeah,
I just don't. They can't flip anyways. I mean, they've signed. They would have to go into the portal in April.
They're both already there on campus, so they'd have to leave after spring ball, like Bobby said. But
yeah, I don't see that. I'm not saying no, but an Ohio winner could do that to me. I would tell you that.
I've been that Midwest winner. I live in Detroit for 2 years, so yeah, that can do that to you. It can make
that's even lake weather. No thanks.
I want to get it. If I could have gotten a transfer portal from the Lions, I would have. Here's a kid.
With Barry Sanders.
He wanted to too. All of them. Calvin Johnson too. Cisco says, when Nick Brooks and Justice Terry come in early, do you see this becoming a trend? I feel like guys are coming early now more often times than not.
Cisco, I think you might have had a different thing you were trying to ask out of that question. If I'm wrong, I apologize.
Okay.
But Texas has had 20 plus. 80% of the class has been early enrollees each of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to continue to be the case. I think you're going to see 75 to 80% of a Texas class be early enrollees.
Is that every school though? Is this around the country or just a Texas?
No, it's getting to be an every school thing. A lot of kids, not every school. Your Power 4 schools, kids want to start their NIL clock too.
There you go. It's like the second contract in the league now.
I'm going to be real.
Yeah.
They want to start their NIL. Now, they see the benefits to being on campus and going through the strength and conditioning, winter workouts, and then getting spring practice. It gives you a better chance to get on the field. But if there was zero NIL, would as many kids do it? Probably not.
That's it's like the NFL, the second contract. The agents always encourage you, get to the NFL. You're an NFL player. You're going to make a roster. You need to get to your second contract.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to make your money. Yep. That's a good point there, Jerry.
I would say this. One of the reasons he could be talking about that too, Jerry, is we put out a video earlier today where you talked about how behind the scenes you've heard great things about Justice Terry and Nick Brooks, two young men out of the state of Georgia, in particular that have impressed folks behind the scenes early. You talked about in that video, you talked about Terry's
professionalism,
professional work ethic.
Kelvin Banks was kind of a professional attack, work ethic, maturity early on. Nick Brooks, it's been that move from Iowa to Grayson and Atlanta area was awesome for Nick Brooks as a senior because he went up against P4 guys off the edge and at D line every single day, probably 2 or 3 future NFL players, Tyler Atkinson ripping around the edge on a blitz, right? So he went up against big-time comp. He also lost 20 pounds. They won a 6A. They won a state title, the biggest classification. They beat Carrollton, but he also lost 20 pounds there. He moves better, and his peripherals better because of what he went up against, and he's shown to be a really good athlete so far at Texas. And the thought is he's going to be a tackle. Now, does that mean he won't play guard his first year? I'm not saying that, because there's been a lot of really good college tackles that played guard because of the tackles in front of them in year one. So we'll see. The spring will decide that. But Nick Brooks is seen as a tackle at the University of Texas.
Hey, Jared, can I ask you this? Because I've talked to some coaches before, college coaches about recruiting, and they always talk about like certain players from certain regions. Like, I like players out of Florida because of this. I like players out of Texas because of this. Right? What do they like and dislike out of players out of Atlanta? Because I've heard kind of players out of Texas, they like them because they're well coached, right? Texas got good coaching, good infrastructure with the coaching, and pay a lot of coaches a lot of money. They come from championship programs. Florida, oftentimes, really high upside players, maybe underdeveloped because they don't have. What is it about Atlanta? Is there something about Atlanta that coaches like and dislike?
I'll give you my opinion on it. Being, I was over the Under Armour Atlanta camp a few years ago, but just going through there a lot. They have more bigger athletes on the defensive line that these guys practice against every single day. So it's like an AAU basketball tournament. When they go, like when I went to Grayson this year and watched practice, Nick Brooks was going against Joseph Mbaktu, who's going to Florida as a 3 tech. But then another part of the practice, he was working against Allen, an edge kid going to Georgia Tech, who was 6'2", but a tremendous football player. And then they had multiple other young defensive linemen there. And, you go around to some of these schools, and there's more bigger body defensive linemen, edge guys, linebackers in that state. So when you watch an offensive lineman, those guys are going against more guys that's similar to their size at the high school level than you find anywhere else.
Yeah. And Rod, it's also very similar to Dallas in that the volume is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you literally fly into DFW or Atlanta, and you literally can throw a rock and hit a Division I football player.
Yeah.
And it's also got an easy airport for that kind of stuff, just like DFW. I mean, you can get there from anywhere and everywhere. Atlanta gets over-recruited a little. But you can't really say that, just like Dallas, in my opinion, gets over-recruited a little. Not saying that players from Dallas are bad or anything. Yeah. It's just, it's so easy to get to and from the big cities like that from the north. Yeah. Iowa City probably has a direct flight to Dallas in Atlanta or whatever. That's what I'm saying there. And so those two cities are reasonably close to the Midwest for guys to go play in the Big Ten too.
Yeah.
We have got a super fun question.
Oh, give it to me. Let's go.
Where does the 2025 number one class rank versus 1999 or 2002?
Oh,
no offense to Rod Babers, I think the 2025 class is better. I think it has more depth.
I agree.
Than the 99 class. The 99 class was ranked 1, and due in large part to Sims and Redding being the Gatorade National Players of the Year, USA Today back in the National Players of the Year on offense and defense. I mean, a guy like Marcus Tubbs wasn't a highly rated guy and ended up being a first rounder. Rod B was a highly rated guy. They had some guys, but this 25 class, depth of the class is pretty strong.
I would say not at the, you don't have a Vince Young in this thing.
That's 2002.
Yeah, I know, but he said 2002.
Yeah, all three of them. Yeah, the three.
Yeah.
Top 99 first before we go to 02.
Yeah. He said 2002 also.
Yeah.
99. Look,
not enough 5 stars, right?
I would say 99 and 2002 very similar in that fact that they were. You can't say top heavy, but any class that has Vince Young has a seminal player, right? A singular player. While I think the 99 class thought they might have that in Sims, they probably didn't have that, but they had pretty good depth in that regard. I think the difference with 2025 and both of those is actually the depth overall of the class. Like I felt like Mac, as good as he was as a recruiter, sometimes he took a lot of flyers on guys that showed up at camp that may or may not, if he would have waited, he may have been able to get somebody better later.
Yeah.
But that's not what he wanted to do from a recruiting perspective.
Yeah.
I think the 2025 class from a depth standpoint will be better than both of those. I mean, I'm saying more NFL players produced by those signings.
I like your thought about Mac, though. Mac didn't maximize the classes, really. He wanted to just get them stacked. Once I got them stacked, I'm good.
He created momentum.
Yes.
He wanted his 7 or 8 key guys that he would, like and you're one of those.
Yeah.
That he would really go recruit hard. And then the rest, he wanted to be good culture guys, but also good players, good students, etc. And he would go fight with that group, right? Whereas Sark, frankly, he doesn't offer scholarships if he doesn't think the guy's going to have a shot at the NFL.
So the crazy thing about the 2002 class, it was ranked number 1. And obviously people say, well, it lived up to its billing because they won the national title. They had a unicorn in the class.
Yeah.
But they had 7 NFL draft picks out of 26 in that class. Which that's like not as high as Nick Saban's classes. Mm-mm. But what's crazy, I'm about to read one of Nick Saban's classes, which is probably the best I've seen in my years doing this. But the crazy thing about that 02 class, some of the most highly ranked guys totally burned out in that class. Dorian McCullough was a 5-star. Mm-hmm. Michael Williams, linebacker from Glendale, is really talented. Then you had Dorian McCullough was a 5-star. Brian Pickrell was off to a great start and was an NFL player, but tore his shoulders up. Like he would have had 10 sacks a season from sophomore to senior year, tore his shoulders up. Chase Pittman transferred to LSU. Marco Martin had a horrific knee injury, never returned. Robert Timmons just couldn't stay focused on 5-star talent, as Bobby can attest to. So that class, as good as they were, because they won the title, they had a lot of guys that just didn't get it done that were ranked really highly in that class too. They had a unicorn. So while y'all comment on that, I'm going to Nick Saban's second class he ever signed at Alabama was freaking unbelievable.
To Jerry's point, though, I remember looking this up with Mac. Mac actually had a pretty low hit rate on 5-stars, considering 5-star is supposed to be no-brainers, right? That guy's the NFL player. Considering that's 5-star is supposed to be no-brainers, easy to develop, he actually had a lower hit rate. So I remember comparing it to guys like Saban in the past. But Mac's hit rate on some of the Bears' point about some of the 3-stars that would end up being great players for him, right? Guys that were under-recruited, if you will. Colt McCoys of the world, the Achos of the world, guys like that. He would hit on some of those guys, kind of balance things out. But that's what ultimately kept Mac, I think, from hitting his ceiling as a coach. Was he never maximized the 5-stars as much as I think a Saban did. His hit rate on those kind of guys, the blue chips, potentially.
Yeah. Now, Miami probably had the greatest class ever. One of those Bobby.
02?
No, in the 90s. But this was Alabama's class in 08.
01 had a nasty one, too, for Miami. Ooh.
Yeah. So this was Alabama in 08. Julio Jones, Kerry Murphy, who got drafted as D lineman, Courtney Upshaw, Mark Barron, Barrett Jones, Mark Ingram, Heisman, Michael Williams got drafted. I think they had 11 draft picks. Deontay Hightower, Damian Square from Yates, who got drafted. Robert Lester was a really highly ranked guy. Chris Jackson was a really good player. Marcel Darius, Undra Billingsley got drafted. Brad Smelly was a good tight end for them. Terrence Cody out of JUCO.
Wow.
I mean, that class was ridiculous class. Yeah. That was a ridiculous class. They had over 10 draft picks.
So name the first round picks in that class.
First round picks in that class, if I remember right, was Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Courtney Upshaw was a first or second.
I think he was a first.
Mark Barron was a first or second, I think first. Barrett Jones, I don't think it was that highly drafted. He's a hell of a center. He's an all-SEC All-American. Mark Ingram, Heisman winner, what, third?
Yeah, he was first round.
Yeah, was he first? Okay, I don't remember that. Deontay Hightower, Terrence Cody, Marcel Darius.
Oh, I think Darius is first round.
Really good. Really good.
And Hightower was first round. Yeah, I mean,
that class was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous class. Yeah. I'm with you guys. I agree with you guys about Mac not necessarily maximizing the class. Mac got his guys. When Mac got his guys, he just wanted to stack the class. And once he got the top guys, he was pretty much good on that. Mac didn't like to wait to the midnight hour on recruiting class. That wasn't his thing. All right.
By the way, you want to know how you build a dynasty? Okay. Alabama signed the #1 class the next year, too. Draker Patrick, DJ Fluker, Trent Richardson, Nico Johnson, AJ McCarron, Eddie Lacy, Quentin Dial, Ed Stinson, Chance Warmack, Anthony Steen. They had 4 NFL offensive linemen in that class. James Carpenter. That's how you build a dynasty. Back-to-back #1 classes that have about 20 NFL draft picks.
With a high hit rate. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's hit a super chat here. Aggie_survivor. Thank you very much. It says, is Texas creeping on being the Dodgers of college football? I guess for those basically, are we just saying that Texas is buying up all the top talent? Is that the example that Aggie_survivor is throwing out there?
Texas needs to win a championship like the Dodgers did.
Yeah, you know what? Great point. So they're not the Dodgers.
let's talk about that. So
yeah,
look, I think that the thing is that Texas is not the only one, right? And it's also about what they do on the field once they get them. And so my take on that is really pretty simple: is you gotta beat, or you gotta win with the guys you get, no matter how good they are. You can have Texas is going to have double-digit draft picks for 2 years in a row. Okay, they got stopped short in the semifinals both years. Great seasons, but still not the promised land, right? And so they can be the Dodgers, they can be the Red Sox, they can be the Yankees. Hopefully, they're not the Yankees of the past 20 years, right? That spend all the money and don't do anything with it. So there's all kinds of different ways to look at it.
I would do it. It does seem to be a trend, though, recently of the national champions. We're talking about Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs. You're talking about Ohio State with Ryan Day. You're talking about Jim Harbaugh with Michigan. That it's a process. Those now, Joe Burrow and LSU, that seemed to be an exception to the rule. Just kind of came out of nowhere. Boom, they won it all. Ed Orgeron's head coach. But most of the recent national champions have seemed to be a process building up to it. And I will say Sark lately, last 2 years, Final Four, knocking on the door, does seem like he is definitely on the right road, on the right path for Texas. So I'll throw that out there as well. All right, let's thank our sponsor, Rogue Shop, before we get close to the end of our live stream here tonight. Our friends at rogueshop.com. That's right, folks. Use the discount code on Texas, and you'll get a very special discount from my friends over at rogueshop.com. Bringing real plant medicine back to its roots. We want to thank them for sponsoring our Sunday night live stream, as they have been all year long. And Rogue Shop not only has oils and creams and flour and gummies and vitamins to deal with a variety of different ailments you may be dealing with, but also they ship nationwide. So no matter where you are in the country, our friends over at rogueshop.com can get their fabulous products to you no matter where you are in the On Texas football family. So whether it's sleep deprivation, or maybe it's just anxiety, maybe it's all the pains and aches that should come along with getting old like myself, or just playing days, whatever it is, our friends at Rogue Shop have a variety of different products to help you deal with all of your different ailments. Like I said, oils, creams, flowers, gummies, and vitamins as well. That's rogueshop.com. Make sure to use the discount code on Texas, so you'll get a very special discount. I had a member of the On Texas football family tell me they actually swear by Rogue Shop's products because they were dealing with some sleep issues, and they actually have been sleeping like a baby since they tried some of the Rogue Shop items. So check them out for yourself. I'm sure they have something for you at rogueshop.com. All right. Thank you very much, Rogue Shop. Getting back to the super chats. Daryl, I see your question, Daryl. Thank you very much for the super chat. Saban signed 13 #1 classes. out of 18 of his last cycles. Out of his 18 last cycles. That is mind-blowing. Yeah, I mean, there will never be another Nick Saban.
Yeah.
They can't be because of NIL and transfer portal. So you got to appreciate that for what it was.
And 16-team playoff. Nobody's winning that many national titles.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen again, guys. So we can appreciate that now in retrospect. Like that is something that will be unprecedented. That run that Nick Saban went on, but hopefully Sark can try his best to make a run at it. How about this one from John? Guys, I don't see much drop off in our defense. What say you? That's a great question. I think the run defense I don't know how the defensive tackles are going to adapt, because Texas has had a really impressive run of D tackles the last 3 years. Just a lot of depth. 2 defensive tackles drafted the last 2 years. You're probably going to have another 2 defensive tackles. For 3 years in a row, you're going to have 2 D tackles drafted. I got to go back and look in college football and see how often that's happened. Because I guarantee it happened a lot. I'm sure maybe Alabama's done it and some other schools. So I think maybe rush defense could take I'm not saying it's going to be a weakness, by the way. Just saying you won't be as elite as you were last year. Your pass defense, man, I don't see how you can, have the same pass defense as you had last year. Losing Jade, losing Makuba. I do have a lot of faith that Malik Muhammad's going to have a really good bounce back year. I think Michael Tapp's going to be a big asset for you. I think the rush defense worries me right now more than the pass defense. I think your pass defense, I like where the young DBs are. I do worry just a little bit about the interior D line, but I would say I had the same issue the same concerns last season, and Texas obviously was able to shore those up pretty easily.
I think it's going to take a step back. I just don't know how far. I think you can't lose guys like Makuba and Barron, and even Barron Sorrell and Alfred Collins, and not take some level of step back. I don't know how much. I don't know how much.
I'm not saying this to disagree. I think the run defense is actually going to be better next year.
Wow.
Here's why I say that. I think the combo of Cole Brevard and Travis Shaw, and obviously they added a third, but those 2 guys may be a little better on the interior against the run. And with the improvement at linebacker, which I think is going to be the most improved position in the program next year. I think the improvement at linebacker, and that's not a knock on the guys that came before, it's just recruiting. That I think Brad Spence is a really good player, and I think Anthony Hill in the year 3, LaFau in the year 3, Ty Anthony Smith in the year 2. I'm not going to be surprised if the run defense doesn't end up being better, but I think the secondary is are they going to be as cohesive? I mean, you got to replace the Thorpe, but are they going to be as cohesive? I mean, Makuba was such an unbelievable addition, cohesive and football smart standpoint.
Yeah.
You got to replicate 2 of those guys in the secondary.
Not one. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You get Michael Taft back, which is great, and we all think that. But Makuba, Taft, and Barron in a secondary, from a high IQ standpoint, give me a break. I mean, that's, Rod, you don't have 2. That's not. You're lucky to have 1 of those guys in your secondary at a time. You really are. Texas had 3 of them.
Yeah.
So that's why I think I don't know how much. I'll say this. I don't know that they'll be a top 10 defense next year. How about that? And also we'll say this, they're going to play a couple teams that should be better offensively next year too. I mean,
Florida will be better. Yeah.
Florida will be better.
You'll play better quarterback. Be better. Yeah, your quarterbacks potentially during the regular season schedule could be better. Yeah. You're going to face good quarterbacks in the postseason schedule. That's just a given. But you may face some better ones during the season too.
Well, to your point, Rod, that's a great point, because to your point, I don't care if Julian Sand's a freshman or not. He's going to be better than the crap Michigan threw out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mateer, no matter how good Oklahoma is going to be better at quarterback than what Oklahoma had this year.
Yep.
I mean, so Diego Pavia is back.
Yeah.
DJ Lagway's a sophomore. Carson Beck did not have a good season. It's not out of the question that Georgia gets better quarterback play. He just didn't have a good season. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was a turnover machine. So Kentucky, the freshman that came in and played, that was better than who they were playing. He's going to now be a sophomore. You're right, Rod. They're going to play better quarterbacks.
Marcel Reed, a second year.
With the receivers.
Yep.
With
So,
better receivers.
Taylor Green, one more year in Bobby Petrino's system.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know. My point, I guess, is I think that statistically they'll be a little down from this year. Now, is it going to be a category drop or just a little bit of a drop is my thought. And that's where I question a little bit.
Yeah. Some pass rush could be just as good, if not better.
Or better. Yeah.
But I'm with you on pass defense in terms of coverage. Could take a step back. Maybe Jerry's right, though, about the linebackers. Like we said about the linebackers. Linebackers should be a strength for you next year. All right, last question before we end our live stream. Guys, sorry we couldn't get to all of them. Oh, by the way, Abdul, I see you, Abdul. I went to dinner with my wife earlier today and saw Abdul and his lovely family. Thank you, Abdul. Big fan of Owen Texas football. So thank you, brother. We appreciate your support. Appreciate you watching.
Rod, you're like all of us old people now that you have kids. You go to dinner at 5:00. Supper.
Yeah, now I'm going to supper, Bobby. This is my life. Yeah, I already had dinner already. Like, how is crazy? Yeah. And Abdul's he's got also a 16-month-old son. So he's also dealing with the same issues I'm dealing with. So Abdul, good to see you. All right, last one from Joe Z here before we end the live stream. Start building a monster? I'm still too scared to say we are back. I don't want to jinx it. The last 2 years, I haven't been able to enjoy it the way I should have. Joe, enjoy it, brother. Please enjoy it. I just talked to Sam Ellinger. Actually, we had him on our third Longhorns broadcast. We actually asked him about we're back. We asked him about that epic moment. And we talked to Sam about it. And yeah, they weren't quite back at that time. But what we said to Sam is that Sam and Alex Okafor said this to him and said, hey man, the Longhorn community at that time, we all needed that. We all needed that because nobody was feeling the confidence and nobody was feeling the swagger within a Longhorn community. And you brought the swagger back, brother. Even when it may not have been substantive, it's okay. Because for that time, we all believed it. We were back. We all were like,
yeah. But you know who believed it too much? The head coach.
That is true. But Joe,
you couldn't see his face for 6 months because he was reading press clippings all day.
I will say the first person who cringed when it happened was Tom. Go back and watch it. He's the first person that goes, "Oh no!"
He went. He's before the cameras. He went, "Oh no!" Then after.
But I will say that no, Joe, you should enjoy it because I think it is for real. I'm not saying they're back, but like my wife says, you ain't got to say it if you're about it. So Texas ain't got to say it. But they're about it.
I would tell you that I have as much Longhorn PTSD as anybody known to me. And it usually colors my game day predictions and all this other stuff. Okay, so I've lived it. I would say that when you go to the national semifinals 2 years in a row, and that's as good as 04-05, except you didn't win the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
08-09, except you didn't win the national championship. Right? Yeah. I mean, pretty. I don't know what back means, but there've been there's no other team in this state that's been that high ever in consecutive years, right?
No.
So
enjoy it, man.
What are you going to say? I mean, I don't know what back is, but it's pretty darn good.
It's pretty damn good, man. I agree with that. All right, that's a great place to leave it. Thank you for all the questions and super chats, guys. Thank you very much for all your participation. We appreciate you. Thank you to Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. Go check them out as well, to rogueshop.com. Also, let me not forget this, guys. You want to become an OTFOG. That's right, OTFOG for just $49.95. You can become an OTFOG and get our subscription to all of our own Texas football content. So I want to throw that out there as well. Thank you to rogueshop.com. And we'll really appreciate them. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes as well, guys. Matthew is the real MVP. Can't forget about him. Thank you to Bobby for all of the wisdom and the knowledge. Thank you, Jerry, for all of your hard work as well. Tomorrow we will have coffee and football starting at 8 a.m. You don't want to miss that. And we'll have the winning drive with myself, Coach Bob Shipley, and CJ Vogel coming on the winning drive. Who knows? Jeff Howell may join us in there as well. We might just throw him in there too. Who knows? We're always trying to have a good time with the crew. All right, guys. Till tomorrow, for Jerry, for Matthew, and for Bobby. And I'm Rod Babers. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.